I'm a paycheck player, as I like to say. I'm good at hitting deadlines. So everything like a New York publisher could ask for, but I wasn't really getting super anywhere. I would have one book that would do fine, it would do great, and then like it would just kind of taper off. Around 2015, I had been self-publishing like some stuff that was under my manuscript bed because I was still writing faster than what New York wanted. And in 2015, Amazon came out with Kindle Unlimited. And I was like, oh, I want to try that, but I do have a lot of New York books, and I don't want people immediately coming in back and being like, I can't read this one. I have to pay for this one. So I was like, I'm going to make another name.
That was the voice of Ruby Dixon, and you are listening to Fated Mates. I'm Sarah McLean. I read romance novels and I write them.
And I'm Jennifer Prokop, a romance reader and editor. And Sarah had this great idea. We have, as you all know, done many Trailblazers, which when we first started doing them many seasons ago was sort of the idea was, who is it that is like recording romance stories? And we're like, I guess we are. And, you know, many of those were kind of what we'd sort of conceived of as like, you know, the authors who built the house, right? Like the people who were like early boots on the ground, kind of early in the romance space, the first people to do something interesting, right? A lot of the people that were like doing it first. And, you know, we are in no way saying that we captured all those voices, right?
No.
Like there are people we couldn't get to. There are people we haven't thought of, right? Like that doesn't mean that that idea will never come back. But then we started to really think like, okay, but a lot of our listeners maybe didn't read those books. Like they're interesting, but, you know, who are the modern trailblazers? This was Sarah's idea, right? Like the people who we all know and love, but that are also leaving a really big mark on the genre in some way, right? Either an innovation in the kinds of books we're reading, an innovation in the way that we are publishing books, an innovation in the way that we are thinking about tropes or characters or right, whatever. And so we really then sort of started to make a list of like, well, who are the people we would love to have on and hear about like those same sets of questions, right? Your romance journey, what made you a reader? What are your, you know, what were you trying to do? Did it work at first? And one of the first people on our list was Ruby Dixon.
Because for all the reasons, those of you who listened to our Ice Planet Barbarians deep dive, you know that we really do believe that Ice Planet Barbarians left an indelible mark and is currently leaving a mark on the genre. So this was a really fun conversation, which you're about to hear. And then, of course, as usual with our Trailblazer episodes, we'll come back around and talk at the end about what we took away. So here we go with Ruby. Welcome, Ruby Dixon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
we
you
are
for having me.
So excited to have the creator of Ice Planet Barbarians with us. We are really excited to get into it and learn more about how this all came to be. But in Fated Mates fashion, let's go back and talk about how you came to romance as a reader, as a writer, however you sort of think about that.
I came to romance. I was always a big reader. So little backstory about little Ruby Dixon. When I was 5, I was diagnosed with idiopathic scoliosis. So most children get scoliosis when they are hitting puberty. I got it at age 5. And it was severe enough that I had to wear a back brace 23 hours a day.
Oh.
And so my mother was always very worried about me. So I was the kid that would, you know, while your brother's playing peewee football or whatever, I would sit on the sidelines and I would read books. And I loved reading. So I was a voracious reader, voracious library kid. And I grew up reading, I feel like Anne McCaffrey was very formative for me. My
Very
mom
unsurprising.
I was like, this totally checks out. It was either that or an alien crashed in your backyard and you dug up a tentacle.
Right,
Could have gone
right.
either way.
I also loved, my mom loved like Silver Age science fiction. So we had like the old fantasy and sci-fi magazines in the
Oh,
house.
yeah, fun.
Old Edgar Rice Burroughs books, Andre Norton. And as I think about all those were all like very, very prolific writers, like where they were constantly having books out. So maybe that's one thing that influenced me that I didn't realize. And then as I hit around 12 or 13, I was looking for something to read. And my mom was like, well, I have Clan of the Cave Bear, but you can't read the second book. And I was like, okay, cool. And
Wait,
I read
is
the first
second
book.
book, the one that's really sexy?
Yeah.
Yes.
The
yes.
first one, I feel like the first one
The first one has some pretty heinous
eye-opening for me.
scenes. Yes. But I loved it, and it left off on a cliffhanger. And I was like, well, screw that. I got to read book 2.
Sure.
And so I
Good
snuck
job,
into
Mom.
her
I'll make sure,
room.
Mom, that's totally, I'm not going to read book 2. No
Listen,
worries.
what a
And read
queen your
book
mom
2.
was, though.
Yes. And I was like, oh. And she caught me reading it. She's like, oh, well, book 3 is right next to it. So go ahead and grab it.
Yay, Mom.
From there, it was just like, I visited a cousin who was it was an older cousin, and she was a big romance reader. And she was like, while you're on vacation, grab any of my books that you want. So I looked for the ones that had like the little zebra heart and the
Sure.
in the corner. Yeah. And if it had that, and there was like a cowboy on the cover pulling somebody's clothes off, I was like, it all goes in the bag. And I came home, so many books. And so that was like really eye-opening to me after reading like all this old school sci-fi fantasy. These were all stories about women in these historical time frames, because it was all historical, like medieval. Bertrice Small was writing like the harem fantasy.
Oh, yeah. Sky O'Malley singing my song.
They were all really big into historical accuracy, except for Julie Garwood. But we'll allow it because she's Julie Garwood.
Sure.
But
I mean, what's not accurate about Al Kincaid and his plaid and
people throwing jewels
plaid
in a pile on the ground?
century Scotland, right? Yes,
Ruby,
But at the
stop.
time, I was
Stop,
like,
Ruby.
I know so much about Scotland right now. I could tell you anything. Ask me anything. They play golf, like just
all learned from romance novels.
Yeah, and I loved it. It was like fantasy of a different sort, but it was
of course.
Facing fantasy. And so from that point on, I was just like gone. And so when I started writing, it was never a question of like, oh, are you going to write romance? It's like, of course there's going to be romance in it. It's not necessarily 100% romance. There might be like some other storylines in there, but there's going to be a romance in here, because that's the spice. That's the fun.
So let's talk about that. So you're in high school, you're reading all of these old school historicals.
Yes.
And then at what point does young Ruby think to herself, like, I'm going to try my hand at this?
Oh, it wasn't till I was post high school, post college, didn't really go to college, because I grew up, family did not have money. It was like, if you're going to go to college, you're going to get a job and you're going to pay for it.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in DFW, Texas. So my family's like, my parents both worked retail all their lives, never had money. And so it was just expected that like, oh, my friends were like, oh, we're going to go off to college. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get a job at Kmart and, work. And then anybody that's been in that situation, like you take a year off and you're like, I'm going to work. And then the next thing you know is like, you have a car note, you have credit cards, and you're like, oh, I can't just, go to college. I'm tired. So I went through a couple of different jobs, and I ended up getting, I went from retail to like a phone pool to like an office job. And it was a well-paying office job. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so lucky to have this job. I hate it with every fiber of my being. And it felt like I was trapped. And I was like, because it was very well paying. And I was like, uh-oh. I was like, do I want to do this for the rest of my life? Or what's my plan B? And I thought my plan B is either I need to go to college at night and get a degree in something practical, like
accounting or whatever. Yeah.
Accounting was what I was going to do. And I was like, maybe it'd be different if I was my own boss. And I was like, okay, going to school, all my credits just expired. I would probably need like 6-7 years of going to school at night and working full time. I was like, or maybe I'll just write a novel. And I was like, maybe that'll be, a better way to go about it. clearly.
I was going to say, very easy. Just,
Yeah, super easy. Just whip that out. Yeah. And I had always kind of written as a teenager. And then I think I saw a movie, Last of the Mohicans. I saw Last of the Mohicans.
Stay alive no matter what occurs.
I loved like 90% of the
I will
movie.
find you. Sorry, let's all just take a moment. Okay, I'm fine.
Yes.
For
the
hot
most
young.
beautiful movie.
Yeah.
The most beautiful movie with beautiful people. And I absolutely hated the ending.
Of course you did, because it's
so
written by a
much.
man.
Like, yes. Alice and Uncas like should have been together at the end, have a parallel romance storyline. Like, come on. And it was just, I was so mad at the ending. And I was like, well, I could do better than that. And so I was like, I'm going to write something. And I started writing. And everybody that starts writing, once you get like 15,000 words in, you realize, oh, this is not easy.
No, I need a middle.
Yes. Oh, the initial thrill has died down and now it's work. And it took me like 2 years to finish that first book. And it was dreadful. And there was like if they were traveling in this story, because it was a big travelogue, like everybody wants to read in their romance. Just people constantly
Just
wandering.
so much research just in
Yes. And I was like, if you're going to wander, I really want the reader to feel it. So there's going to be like pages and pages of just endless wandering. So you really get in the moment. And it was awful. It still lives under my bed somewhere. Terrible. But you finish that and you're like, oh, I can write a book. Like that's really cool. And so I think I wrote like 3 or 4, getting progressively faster before I decided to query. And I queried my like 4th or 5th book, and I think I got an agent after like a couple of years, and then it took a couple more years to sell, and then I started writing professionally for New York. Not enough to quit the job that I hated. It was income, and it was something that I enjoyed doing. And then,
And when would this have been, like, in time? Like 20?
I want to say
10s? Like what? Like earlier? 2000s?
2006, I think, is when I got my first
2006.
agent. And so my first book came out like in 2009 or 2010, and that was several names ago. And like anybody that's been in New York has been like, okay, this book didn't land. Let's try another name.
Yeah. Well, so
This book didn't land. Let's try another name. And Ruby is actually my 4th name.
Are you able to talk about like the misses, the kind of which were the books? What were you writing that just, didn't work? Because we have Jane Ann Krentz, for example, on the show, and she talks a lot about how like she's been through so many pen names because there are ebbs, there are flows, and then, a genre dies or like a book doesn't land, and then suddenly it's you have to try again. You have to keep persevering.
Right. The first one that came out did not land. I don't know if it was urban fantasy when urban fantasy was kind of blowing up, but it was very romantic urban fantasy.
So like mid to late aughts.
Yes. And it had like a sexy guy cover, even though it was a female focused romance, urban fantasy. I guess we'd call it romantasy at this point. And the publisher was like gung ho behind it, printed 100,000 copies.
Whoa.
And like 95,000 came back.
Oof.
So it was over before it started. That was a big eye opener. And then
Now,
they were like,
that's not your fault. That's a publisher
Right.
who printed too many books.
right. Well, and they had buy-ins. The thing with the publisher is they go out and they're like, and I think this is what a lot of indies don't understand is like, why do publishers print so many books? Because they go to Walmart. They're like, we're excited about this book. Look how pretty it is. How many do you want? And Walmart's like, we love it. Let's have 20,000. And they go to Target, and Target's like, we love it. Let's get 20,000. And so you have all these stores that are like, we all want so many of this book. And then you put it out and like people just look at it and they're like, nope, and just keep on going. So it's not the publisher's fault for printing that many. It's somebody upstairs was like, oh, this is going to sell. And you get it to the storefront and it's like, oh, no, it doesn't sell. And I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of reasons behind it.
Nobody
So,
knows. I mean, it's
right.
Mystery.
Right.
How
So I don't
that'll-
really blame anyone other than like, it was my first published book. Looking back, it was kind of a weird baby. So maybe it was a little too weird. And that's a thing with me recurringly. It's like maybe I'm a little too weird every now and then, which whatever.
Okay, so urban fantasy is a no.
So then I went to more paranormal romance, different name, paranormal romance. First one did really, really well, had like 5 or 6 printings right off the gate. And then it got caught up in when Simon & Schuster was feuding with Barnes & Noble. And my book had came out, my second book in the series was supposed to like really blow up. And it never left the storeroom.
Oh, no.
So I want to say all of those came back.
And when you say, I just want to probe a little, and again,
Sure.
When you say paranormal, are we talking creatures like
Shifters. It was shifters.
Okay.
Yes. Shifters and vampires and things like that. Yes.
I'm trying to piece out like what's the DNA here of a Ruby Dixon book. So,
and that I do think would have done better, but it was timing. Right book, wrong time. So I still look fondly at those. I'm like, yeah, I was doing something right there. And then I went to a different publisher and they were like, well, you're writing paranormal for them. Can you write same vein, like contemporary-ish sorts of things? And I was like, yeah, I can do that. I'm like, I'll do whatever you want. Pay me,
I'm sorry, at this point, how many books have you written and published?
At that point, probably 7 or 8.
So they know that you can write. They know that you can produce. And how many years are we talking about at this point?
Probably like 3 or 4. Like I'm pretty fast. Like whenever I would get a contract with somebody, I'm like, I've got extra books in me. Like just put me in coach, I will perform.
This week's episode of Fated Mates is brought to you by Little Brown and Company, publishers of Ellen Hildebrand's 30 novels, including this one, The Academy, with her daughter, Shelby Cunningham.
So it's move-in day at Tiffin Academy, and amidst all of the happy chaos of friends reuniting, there is a sort of sense of real satisfaction among this campus of New England's popular boarding school. It has jumped 17 points on the best boarding schools in the country list and is now number 2. So everybody's kind of like patting themselves on the back because there's absolutely no reason for this to be number 2. At least nobody ever thought it would be. The dorms need to be renovated. Everybody's a little more social than they are academic, but like people are feeling pretty great. Problem is, there's a brand new blind item app that everybody loves. And immediately after the announcement is made that Tiffin is number 2 on the list, a bunch of blind items start to come out that are pretty scandalous. Everybody is a mark. There are international influencers, queen bees, young history teachers, transfer students with secrets, and of course, the admissions director, who's got a little bit of a weird methodology for who she likes to let into Tiffin. Everyone has something to hide. All of these secrets are being revealed. This is a book that, like, if you liked Prep or Gossip Girl, this is definitely going to be for you. This is like The Click. It really feels like Ellen Hildebrand knows how to write a really buzzy take on something. This is going to be a real take on boarding school. And I'm excited.
Yeah, so the Academy is due in paperback this month, and you can read it to get ready for the return to Tiffin Academy this September with The Thoroughbred. So if your podcast app supports it, you can click on the chapter title right now to be taken to buy the book in print, ebook, or audio. Thanks to Little Brown and Company for sponsoring this week's episode.
This is right around the time historically, like that end of the aughts, beginning of the tens, when publishers were trying to do like monthly releases. So they would say like, we want to buy this series. We want you to write all 3, and then we'll publish them June, July, August.
Yes.
Were you in this mix?
My first series. So they did book 1 and book 2, and they both printed like $100,000 and $120,000 of book 2, which I was like, why would you do that? and they both like flopped spectacularly. And then after that, it was just like, no. So that was the only back-to-back that I really had. But when I went to the other publisher, it was more like, okay, we're going to do contemporary, and I did several different types of contemporary romance for them, and basically what they were asking for, because I had a really good relationship with my editor, Cindy Huang. Love her, have worked with her for a really long time, and she's always been very supportive. And then I guess I'd been doing that for a while, and I was kind of like, okay, I'm a paycheck player, as they like to say.
Who isn't, Ruby?
It was like Jerry Maguire when they said that. You show up for your check, and that's all it is. And that was fine, because it beat working in an office. And
you were fast, and you had the ideas.
I'm good at hitting deadlines, so everything like a New York publisher could ask for, but I wasn't really getting super anywhere. I would have one book that would do fine, it would do great, and then like it would just kind of taper off. So and my husband is convinced that it's because they were throttling the weirdness.
Weird. Yeah. I mean, it seems like you might be right. Keep going.
Right. So around 2015, I had been self-publishing like some stuff that was under my manuscript bed, for a while, because I was still writing faster than what New York wanted. And in 2015, Amazon came out with Kindle Unlimited. And I was like, oh, I want to try that. But I do have a lot of New York books, and I don't want people immediately coming in back and being like, I can't read this one. I have to pay for this one. So I was like, I'm going to make another name because
smart.
I just love names. And
no, but
I was
that's so smart. And
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of people who are doing it, but you are probably the first person we've had on who like admits that this is how it works. I was
like, yeah, I'm going to do this. If you see Ruby Dixon, it's in Kindle Unlimited. And I have a couple of author buddies, and we were like, let's all make names and we'll cross promote each other. And so we came up with like The Club, which is the most generic name ever. But we're going to write
for a bunch of writers, club. It's especially funny, right? The Club, like your writers, you could have come up with something amazing.
Right. No, it was just The Club. And it was me and a friend that was going to go by Ella Good and Katie Wilde. And eventually we pulled in a friend, Alexa Riley. And so we were like, we're each going to put out a novella every week. And then,
oh my God,
like Katie
so
would put out one, Ella would put out one, I would put out one, and then we would just cycle back. That was very ambitious.
I mean,
but not happen that way for long.
But Alexa Riley, I mean, they write really fast.
They do.
And then you
got two brains in there.
Yeah. Yes. You also write pretty fast. And I feel like all of you do, but a weekly schedule is.
Yes. Well, it was like, it's only 10 to 15,000 words. Like you're popping up once a month.
And they're super sexy. That's the deal. Right. You're like, we're going to do high heat.
Easy.
Everyone at home is not really getting the full Ruby Dickinson experience because there's a lot of like eye rolling and like air quotes. Yes, and I just want you to know it's all delightful.
A hand talker for sure.
Me too. I love it. Were the books in traditional also high heat?
Yes.
Did you? So you were like, I like writing these kind of super sexy things.
I was like, and
for the time,
challenge. I love a challenge too. I'm like, let's see if I can throw anal in this one and see if I can say anything. I'm like,
see if Cindy notices.
The editor is like, I love her to death. She is the horniest person I've ever met. So nothing is too spicy for her.
Put it on her tombstone.
That's right. Here lies Cindy. Man, she was horny. So, and I love you, Cindy, if you hear this. But she knows. Mm-hmm. So I started writing as Ruby, and I was writing motorcycle club stuff because we were like, what's popular right now? Let's get that money. What's motorcycle club? Do I know anything about motorcycle clubs?
No one knows anything about anything in romance. Right.
I've seen a couple gifts of Sons of Anarchy, you know.
You were driving down the freeway and a motorcycle went by you. It's fine.
Right. I live in Texas. I'm sure it's all, you know, completely above board. It's totally not racist in the slightest, you know. And I wrote like a couple of those, and my whole motorcycle club thing was that they were going to be 2 guys, 1 girl, male, female, male. So every guy had a partner that he would ride with and then he would ride with.
I was going to say the swords cross.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Although people got really mad about that. If the swords.
When this is 2015, this is right when it starts to get okay that swords cross.
Yes. And I was like, do you think they're just holding hands?
Yeah, they're not touching. No touching.
Right. So, and I did hit a wall with those. I was like, you can only do so much, you know, with this very specific setup that I have created for myself. And between that and like the New York books, where I was like, yeah, okay, I'll write another like feel good holiday book. Sure. You know,
don't get those confused.
Right. And it was just, I don't know if that was when Trump was first getting into office. Maybe that might have had something to do with it. And I was like, I was feeling tapped. And so I was like, you know, I love writing, but I'm not loving it right now. I need to do something to make myself love it again. And this is the longest origin story, by the way.
I love every
Ruby,
second
just
of
keep
it.
going. This is going to be a 7-hour episode, and it's going to be fine. We're going to build in bathroom breaks, reading breaks, maybe even.
Okay. Intermission.
Okay, everybody stop. Go read something, come back. It's fine. Right. Keep going. Keep going.
And I was like, okay, what do I want to write? And I had been reading, this was back before science fiction romance really started to hit. And I read a couple of authors that were, okay, a little preface. There was a little bit of science fiction romance back in the day through Alora's Cave.
Of course.
We all remember them, yes.
Yeah. Well, we don't all, but
we all do.
Remember, the 3 of us.
Oh my God, remember those Jade Black books? Like, what were we reading?
Wait, the ones, sorry. Keep going.
Like, Evangeline Anderson had
Who was the one who did all the like shifters who were made in a lab?
Lorianne Donner.
Yes.
Lorianne Donner.
Yes.
You love those.
Yes. So there was some science fiction romance, like Evangeline Anderson, Jade Black, Lorianne Donner had a cyborg series.
Yeah, she had so many books.
And I had read like everything. Yeah. And I was like, there's not enough of this.
Because for listeners who don't remember the like deep magic, the Alora's Cave, when Kindles came out, when like e-readers came out, and those of us who were high volume readers bought Kindles, there was a limit to what you could put on them. I mean,
now you're like swimming in books. Yeah, but back then you're like, I don't know what's out there.
But like, so Alora's Cave was there, and those were books that those writers were prolific, and they wrote almost as fast as we read. And so, you know.
Alora's Cave got pricey too, because it was like, oh, you want this 40-page novella? $6.99, please.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I remember that.
I was like, well, okay, if I must.
Divesting my entire paycheck into.
Yes, but they were making bank. But I had read
cyborgs.
Everything. I had read everything, and like I would like go to the science fiction romance category and scroll by new releases and look for anything there. And there would be something that would trickle in, and every once in a while it would be okay, but it wouldn't scratch the itch. And I read R.Lee Smith, and R.Lee Smith is an indie faceless entity. It's R, the initial, Lee, L-E-E.
Yes.
And they, I don't know if it's a she or they, I'm going to try and do they wrote very epically long, fanficky feeling science fiction / dark fantasy books.
Okay.
And they were grim.
For Alora's Cave.
Gritty. I'm sorry?
For Alora's Cave or on
No, not Alora's Cave, past Alora's Cave, just self-published.
Okay.
And they like broke my brain. I was like, this is the weirdest stuff, and I love it.
And was it aliens? Was it?
Yes.
Okay.
There were aliens. There were bug men. There were
interesting.
demons, like just very cracky feeling. And like, this was somebody that had never been told you can't write that. And I love that. They were all very, very dark, millions of trigger warnings. If anybody goes to pick them up, millions of trigger warnings. And I absolutely...
Were they sexy?
I was like, yes, some of them.
But not... They could have been more sexy. I'm sensing from your face.
Right.
Okay.
And like, I wouldn't tell anybody to go in reading for spice. I would say go in reading for the bonkers.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, nobody told this person they can't write this. And I love that about them. And so I was like, I'm going to go back and I'm just going to write something that is purely spun out of whatever I have in this old file over here. And because I had read a lot of science fiction and fantasy and historical growing up, I was like, I'm going to pull back on all those and pull in things that I enjoy and that I would love to see in one of these science fiction romances. And I think that's kind of where Ice Planet Barbarians came from. I had an idea and I was like, I'm going to do... the characters that live on this planet are going to have a symbiont where they have to have this parasite that helps them live here. And initially it was going to be like a superhero parasite. And like, it was going to make them like fly and be super strong. And then I was like, nah, that's kind of stupid. So it changes as you start writing, though. And you realize, oh, I can do this. And oh, I can do this. And I also really enjoyed serials at the time. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to try and write this as a serial.
Wait, pause. Yes. Because now you've just like activated an old memory of mine. Because I had forgotten about serials.
It came out in 6 parts.
Yeah.
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 That was happening at that time. Remember that one Cressley book that came out in 3s or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
The Professional or whatever the first one was.
I think for a hot minute, people really liked serials because I knew people that had like...
But they were shorter. They were like
2015, 2016.
Was this around the time of, what was it, Radish, right? Like, wasn't there like a...
No, I think Radish was after that. I think the reason why there were so many serials that were coming out was because it was all about money. Kindle Unlimited was like Kindle Unlimited 1.0. And this is how the sausage is made. I don't know.
No, this is so useful.
Okay.
Please. Yeah.
And what it was that if you opened a book on Kindle Unlimited and you got to 10%, you were paid for the full price of the read. And so when you would, people would write shorter books and then just release a lot of them because you would get paid the full price.
Yeah. And then there was also the bonuses were happening too then.
Yes. Well, that happened afterwards.
Oh, okay.
So
explain to people about the bonuses.
Right. Kindle 1.0, Kindle Limited 1.0, people would then create like a serial, quote serial, that would be like 10 pages long. So you open the book, you get 10%. And they're like, read on for part 2. And so Amazon was like, we can't do this anymore. So they did Amazon, I guess they did Kindle 2.0 where you got paid by pages read. And that's when people started doing the stuffing.
Yes.
Oh, no,
they would add stories.
That too. There was a whole like scandal around stuffing.
Yes.
But in Kindle 1.0, if you got a bonus, if you were the top read author in a category, right? Every month. They have done bonuses for a while. They change how the bonuses were. Right.
They did do that too, I think.
And that was the other reason why serials work, because people would download all of the books.
Yes.
And then that would make you more likely to be in the top 10 authors of the month or whatever.
Yes.
And I remember friends telling me, and I don't know if you can confirm this, but I remember somebody telling me like she was number 1 in one of those early categories one month and she got a $75,000 bonus.
Okay. I never got that.
Yeah.
You're like, excuse me.
I mean, but this was early days.
Sure. And they were throwing money at things to make them happen. And, I will say a lot of things about Amazon. I have never had issues with like their system. And everybody I've ever worked with at Amazon has been super professional. So like it is a corporation. You have to keep that in mind. Like 100% of the time, they're going to do what's best for their corporation, not what's best for you, Peggy Sue, the author.
This week's episode of Fated Mates is brought to you by Lucy Score, author of Mistakes Were Made, the second in her Story Lake series.
So, our heroine here, Zoe Moody, is very down on her luck. She is broke. She has been kicked out of her New York City apartment building. She is really having a difficult time as a literary agent, and she is in Story Lake under duress. She's there because she no longer has an apartment in New York City, and her one client, the only one who has been loyal to her, her best friend Hazel, needs to finish her romance novel, and hopefully they're going to turn this romance novel into pure gold for both of them. And then Zoe can get the heck out of Story Lake and this tiny small town, which she cannot stand, and head back to New York. Problem is, in walks handsome, like sexy lawyer Gage Bishop, who is smart and serious and very ready to settle down. Gage is looking for a wife, and he is looking for children, and he is looking for the next stage of his life. And Zoe is the most beautiful woman he has ever met, but it is clear that they are completely wrong for each other. She is allergic to commitment. He is looking for a wife. She is afraid of animals. He lives in a literal barn. But when he has one night where he is rocked by a devastating family secret, he turns to the only woman he's wanted for a long time. And they have one night to forget everything. But as you know, Jen, one night.
No, one night's never enough, Sarah. So if you would like to find out what happens, then you should check out Mistakes Were Made. It is available in print, audiobook, and ebook, and with your monthly subscription to Kindle Unlimited. Thanks to Lucy Score for sponsoring this week's episode.
So at this point, you're still writing traditional for New York. You are sort of burnt out. You want to write something that's like just pure id, right? Like open a vein and Ruby Dixon comes out.
Yes.
So you have this idea, and are you instantly like, this is an indie idea? Like this is Ruby Dixon.
Yes. I was like, I called up Katie and I was like, Katie, I need you to make me a cover. Here is the stock photo I want to use. I need you to make this man blue. And I was like, and I'm going to call it Ice Planet Barbarians. And because that is the most on the nose, like pulp fiction sort of title I can think of. I was like, this will weed out the science fiction bros.
Yeah.
Because
right. Sure. Good point.
Everything I did was like, these men are not my target audience. I need to make sure
to repel them.
Yes. So when I put it up, I put like Ice Planet Barbarians. I put a sci-fi romance novella, because sci-fi is a term that SFF readers hate.
Oh,
because it's considered the wrong sort of shorthand. They like SFF, or they like science fiction, or they like speculative fiction, but they didn't like sci-fi.
And
I was like, sci-fi romance.
Yeah, you're like, let me just,
nice.
Let me throw in all the things that say this is not for you. And I was like, this will either fail spectacularly, or somebody else is going to be like, yes, finally somebody's writing this weird alien stuff that, that I've been looking for. And the first part of the serial did okay. And then the next one got a little bit more, and the next one got a little bit more. By the time I hit the sixth one, which was the finale, it was hitting the top 100 in Kindle.
I'm sorry. Can you so you're saying the first Ice Planet Barbarians, not what we think of as Ice Planet Barbarians, the book.
Yes.
Was 6 parts.
Yes, it was 6 parts.
Okay. I did not read it in parts. The first time I read it, it was a whole thing.
Yeah. And I did book 2 in parts also. And then by the time I got to book 3, I had been getting enough emails from people that were like, please skip doing the parts thing.
Yeah, let me pay you $6.
Yes. Yes. And they were like, well, I want to read it all now. And I was like, oh, okay. So book 3 onward was just like a full book.
And now, can we talk about the writing? I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off, but can we talk about the writing of serials? Were you writing and publishing like fic style, or were you like writing the whole thing and then separating it out? What was the process there?
I wrote like each section and I was like, oh, that's a fun little cliffhanger.
And then just publish.
Yeah. Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah, I do love serials. I read a lot of comic books growing up too. So I think if you read a lot of serial type fiction, you start to learn where the beats are that you can kind of like pause it here, or where this would be a good stop to get people to come back again. And I still enjoy serial fiction. Like I still do a serial like on my website or whatever every now and then, because I enjoy that day to day. Let's check in and see what the next chapter is. Fanfic is real big on serial sorts of things. Like you might read a completed fanfic and you're like, why does this drag on for so many chapters? It's because they're feeding people day to day or week to week little bits of this story.
So do you we just did a deep dive of Ice Planet Barbarians on the podcast, and we read obviously the whole book. Where was the first cut? Do you remember?
The first cut, I want to say it was when she runs into Vectel.
So we get all the way to him.
Yes.
And then we cut.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You know, it's funny. I was just looking back. I started in romance reviewing for the Book Queen. And it was in September of 2017. I reviewed another like sci-fi kind of romance that I didn't really enjoy that much. And then in the end, I was like, if you're looking for something, you should try this Ice Planet Barbarians series. And I actually like sort of explain it a little bit. Like, here's what it's about. And it seems wild to me to think that there was ever a time where I couldn't say Ice Planet Barbarians and everyone already knew what it was, right? That I would be like, hey, listen, if you're looking for something more like this, you might try. And let me tell you what it is. But it was, right? I mean, September 2017, people knew it, but it wasn't like what happened after TikTok.
It was considered super weird. Yeah.
Well, I feel like, was it TikTok though? Because I feel like it blew up before TikTok.
It was very healthy before TikTok.
So
like,
at what point do you sort of wake up in the morning and go, holy shit, I have done a thing here?
I still don't get that.
No,
so,
I know, but
I never do.
Really? So there was never a moment where you were like, oh my God, people are really into this. Like, this is...
No, I guess because I grew up reading like Cressley Cole is a huge like inspiration for me. And she had like this big long series of like, here are these individual stories. They're all batshit crazy, you know, and fun. Have a good time. Come back for the next one. And so I really appreciate that model. And so to me, that's just what I'm doing. Like, here's a crazy story set in this world.
Yeah.
Come back for the next one, you know? And like, to me, it's never felt like it was a thing. Like it was good in its little segment of the universe.
This week's episode of Fated Mates is sponsored by Lumi Gummies. Consistent, mellow, and super delicious, Lumi Gummies are specifically designed to make you feel good, not stoned. Whether you're looking for an end-of-day de-stressor, a midday mood boost, or help getting the best sleep ever, Lumi Gummies has a strain that's right for you. So we have been experiencing some very unsettled weather here in Chicago, and I have been having a really hard time sleeping, right? Like, just like there's thunder and lightning and, you know, just like the temperatures all over the place. And I have just really found that this has been a week where I have been really leaning into Lumi Gummies to help me sleep. You know, so if I go to sleep and fall asleep and it's great, then fine. But if I wake up in the middle of the night, it's just like a way that I can like just like pop a gummy and then just like kind of fall back asleep and then like still wake up in the morning and feel like kind of refreshed, as opposed to feeling like, you know, like, oh my God, I, you know, just overwhelmed by some other kind of medicine. So it's just been a really great time for me to just like remember how helpful that can be when I have that, like I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm wide awake. And in this case, it's the weather. Sometimes it's just like anxiety or worrying about the world. But I do find that this has been really a great time for me to lean back into the gummy.
Nice.
Lumi gummies are available nationwide. Go to lumigummies.com. That's LUMI gummies.com and use code FATEDMATES for 30% off your order. Again, that's lumigummies.com, code FATEDMATES. lumigummies.com, code FATEDMATES. Thanks to Lumi Gummies for sponsoring this week's episode. In my mind, it feels like Ice Planet Barbarians was the first of the new wave of monster romance. Like it inspired a huge, a wide swath of authors to move toward monsters. And I separate that, and we've talked about this on the podcast, but and tell us if this is wrong, because that's part of why you're here, is the sort of, there is paranormal that came before, and then there is monster, which then came sort of on the backs of Ice Planet Barbarians, it felt. And the heroes feel really different in them.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like you talked about Cressley, the first season of our podcast was a deep dive of Immortals After Dark. Lothair would never be an Ice Planet Barbarian.
No. Most monster romance heroes are golden retrievers / simps.
So can you talk about that? Were you always writing golden retrievers?
No, but I was like, I kind of wanted him to be like, oh, he's this really terrifying, monstery looking, like 7 feet tall, horn, glowing eyes. Like, he's an alien. This should be terrifying. And I wanted him to just be like, just the nicest. Like, you're a gentleman, you know? Because
when we say gentleman, he does eat her out, like, the second he meets her, Ruby.
Yes. And like, that is like the litmus
thanks for your service.
Right. And that is the part that everybody struggles with. They're like, oh, this is not consent. Well, she wakes up and she's pretty consensual.
No, she's very fine.
Like, you know what? This is fine.
They're wrong. We didn't struggle with that at all.
I wrote it from her point of view too, because I wanted you to realize, oh no, she's fine with this.
Yeah.
You know, and like, and he makes it very clear, like, if she like pushes him with her foot, like, oh, he backs off. He makes it very clear that whatever, you're running the show here. So I tried to convey that, but I did get a lot of flack from that. And I was like, should I take this out? Should I leave it in? I ended up leaving it in. And anytime you think like that as a writer now, I'm like, if you wonder about it, leave it in, because it's going to be the part that people remember.
That's a great piece of advice. So it was actually, you're right, like pretty popular right up into the TikTok time, right? Like our friend
in circles, yes.
Right? Our friend Danny Lacey had a whole Ice Planet pod, right, where she was doing a read along with every episode. That predated TikTok. I mean, I felt like there was a kind of a wave of Ice Planet Barbarians readers, but then we have to admit that like TikTok must have put high octane fuel in the tank.
Level.
Yeah.
Yes. And I had no idea it was happening
until you open up your Kindle Unlimited like royalty statement or whatever one month, and we're like, wait,
I'm not on TikTok, because every once in a while social media just becomes too much. And I was like,
every minute.
I know. And I had like gotten off of Twitter because Twitter was just toxic. And like, I'm just gonna look at cat videos on Instagram and like, you know, live my life. And I would check my book ranks every once in a while, and I'm like, yeah, okay, you know, it's where it normally is, whatever. And then like Ice Planet Barbarians jumped into like the top 500 on Amazon after years and years of being
years.
And I was like, oh, how neat. And I was like, maybe it got mentioned somewhere. And then it jumped to like 200, and then it jumped to like 100, and then it jumped to like number 10 in the store, and all the other little books were following behind it. And I was like, what's going on? I don't understand. And my mom, my 70-something-year-old mom was like, honey, I think it's on the TikTok. And I was like, Mom, what are you talking about? And she's like, I saw somebody mention that it was on TikTok. And so we both downloaded TikTok at lunch, and we're looking for it. And I found a video, and it was by a reader. And I think she writes now, a Charlotte Swan. She writes monster romance, real super spicy monster romance, and Charlotte Swan. And she was like, you know, during the pandemic, she's like, Ice Planet Barbarians was my cozy place. This is just what I would go to escape. And I was like, oh, that's really sweet. And then I saw a bunch of other videos where they were like stitching her and they were like, oh my God, this was amazing. And it just kind of turned into this thing. And the book one hit #1 in the store. And like at one point, there was like 12 Ice Planet Barbarians in the top 100. And I was getting all kinds of bookstores like in my inbox. And they were like, we can't order your books because they're Amazon POD. And I was like, uh-oh. So, and I saw lots of videos where like bookstores were like, people were coming in asking for the Blue Barbarian books. And they were like, no, we don't have them. So, my agent reached out. She was like, hey, I just saw, a TikTok about Ice Planet Barbarians. She's like, do we want to reach out to your publisher and see if they want to do something?
This is Holly Root.
Yes, Holly Root. Love her. The most like Zen, sweetest person. I've been with her for like 15 years now.
Oh, so she was with you from the beginning? Or
yes,
you?
Yes.
Okay.
She was actually like the third agent I had, but we won't talk about the first
too.
two. Yeah. Yes.
Third time's the charm, ladies.
We always,
Yes.
everybody lands at Holly.
Yes. And she's just delightful and she knows the industry. She knows romance.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, why don't we go to your publisher and see if maybe they're interested in doing something with Ice Planet?
So does your publisher know you are Ruby Dixon?
Yes.
Okay.
Like I said, I've had a really good relationship with Cindy for a long time. But it was more like, oh, that's neat.
Yeah, because when you started,
right.
these were crazy.
Right. And they were like, that's nice. That's a Kindle Unlimited sort of thing.
Yeah.
And
How
then,
the tide has turned.
Yes. And I was getting like all kinds of crazy industry people in my inbox. And so we went to Cindy and I was like, Cindy, I have like 12 books in the top 100. I was like, you better back up that money truck. I want these books. And she was
player,
like,
right?
Right.
Hey, perv, back up that money truck.
Yeah. And it was, because it was also like, this was my thing.
Yeah.
Like, say no.
Well, this is your baby.
I'm still fine. I don't need New York because I'm doing just fine on Kindle. And I'm doing just fine on Kindle for like 5 years.
And like, let's just take a pause here because I don't need New York.
Yes.
This is a transformational time in publishing. Okay. I mean, I just want to say, like, everybody knows that, like, we brought Ruby on because we're doing this new series of, like, modern trailblazers. And I feel like you just said the thing that really does set you is a hallmark of your time of publishing.
Right.
Like,
yes,
I don't need New York is a thing no one said before, right around that time. I mean, a handful of people, right? Like Bella Andre and Barbara Freethy. Like, there were people who had written a backlist and were very successful in their own way. But like, this is a big thing, right? It's become huge. Penguin Random House is coming hard for these books, like wants these books. And you're able to say, like, make it worth my while. And that is the dream.
Yes. And so they came back and they were like, okay, we do want these books. We think we can get them in stores and solve this problem. However, we can't back up the money truck because like it would be such a commitment. And I think they were afraid at that point because anybody that's been in self-publishing for a long time knows that around 2011, 2012, publishers bought up a lot of self-published stuff. And then the well ran dry. So then they stopped again. And when Ice Planet Barbarians hit, they were like, okay, let's try this new crazy thing where you keep your ebook rights and we do the print rights. Do you want to roll the dice with us on that? And I was like, you know what? Let's do that. Because I would look at my print books and they would be like 1/100th of what the Kindle Unlimited or the ebooks are selling. So I was like, you know what? You can have print rights. And that ended up working out really well.
With Katie's covers.
Yes.
No,
right?
they had great.
No, the early ones were
just using those early covers, were they not?
No,
The original
no,
print book had those different covers. That was like the
Yes,
big
they
deal.
were the illustrated covers. I was like, I want illustrated covers.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Those
if I'm
beautiful,
asking, I'm like, I
illustrated
want-
covers.
Yeah.
Yes. And people were like, oh, that's YA. I'm like,
So it was
how
the
is it
POD
YA?
that had those original covers.
The POD has the very lurid.
I think
Kindle
that's the
Unlimited.
copy I have, just
Yes,
FYI.
yes.
That's where I am in the Ice Planet Barbarians world.
And it's so funny too, because I was like, I want an upmarket, like illustrated cover to pull in a new audience. If you've seen the Kindle Unlimited cover, you've already decided if it's for you or not. So I want to pull in new people. And so the initial cover just had Georgie on the cover. And Walmart came back and they're like, where are her boobs? We need some boobs to show that it's romance. And I was like, okay. So we added some cleavage. And then I think Target came back and they're like, where's the hero?
Yeah.
We need hero on this cover. So that's why you have like the hero photo.
No, he's beautiful. Yeah.
Yes. And then they were like,
Real
okay,
like Fabio style, that hero.
yes. So everybody that's like, why did this author pick this cover? It's a committee every time. You could be like, I have the most beautiful cover on earth, and Walmart could be like, we think she needs a raccoon on the cover because raccoons are really hot. And then you get a raccoon because Walmart will buy those books.
Yeah.
So it's all very committee. And so we had Ice Planet Barbarians, and we just put the print book out. And it didn't do crazy well at the beginning, like, because everybody had already bought
Right. Read it. Yeah.
Right. But it just kept selling, and it just kept selling. And like, the next one came out, and the next one came out, and they have all sold consistently. It didn't hit the New York Times. It didn't hit USA Today. I don't think it hit USA Today until like number 6. And I think it hit like number 150 out of 150. But I was like, yay, USA Today. But they just consistently sell. And I think Ice Planet Barbarians, the Penguin version, is now like in the 23rd printing.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And yeah. And I've been doing events, and 90% of the time, if you do an event at a bookstore, these people only read at bookstores. They go to the bookstore and use it like shopping. Like, they look at what's on the shelves. They don't go on Amazon and see what's coming out. They just read what is at the bookstore. And I thought that was fascinating. It's this whole niche of the market that you cannot get as a Kindle Unlimited author. And I was like, oh, this is an opportunity for me to grow sideways instead of just focusing all in on Kindle Unlimited.
I mean, listen, we were all just bookstore only readers until we weren't. I mean, that's how. I mean, sometimes I'm like, how did I find people in the 90s?
You went to the store.
You just went to the store and you shopped until you found something you wanted to read, right?
Yes. Yes. So, yeah, I mean, it's been really great. And it's fascinating to me because I will meet people and they're like, I can't wait for book 11. When's book 11 coming out? I want to be like, book 11's been out since 2017. Go read it on your Kindle. But they read the paper.
Yeah, they're just going methodically in their format.
They share it with family. They borrow it from the library. And I'm like, that's fantastic.
So where are we at now with parallel publishing? So how many books are there in the series that you have written in E?
Okay, in the initial series, I want to say there was 21, but like 3 of them were novellas that I would just put out to kind of like bridge the gap. So those don't necessarily count. So maybe there's going to be like 17 or something like that.
And then there are the spinoffs.
There's the spinoffs, which is Ice Home. And I want to say there was 17 of those. And then there is a spinoff of the spinoff called Ice Planet Clones, where it's another group of people on the same planet. And then there is also a wider Ruby verse. Imagine me spreading my hands, where like, because it's a spacefaring race. So there's, corsairs in space and the people a home planet, and like there's cat aliens, and there's an entire planet where they do like a little house on the prairie style homesteading because it's like a human refuge. And just like, I just keep playing in the same universe, and it's a lot of fun.
And then in print, so far, it's just the Ice Planet Barbarians.
10 books. Book 11 comes out December 1st.
This lady's going to be so excited.
Yes. She will be there on day one. And then 12 and 13, I want to say, come out next year.
Okay.
And then I'm also doing Romantasy with Berkeley.
So then you've sort of started this new, the Minotaur book was the beginning, right? That's the first. And those are like traditionally published in both e and print, right? Like those aren't in KU, right? Okay.
I don't know if it was the first. It might have been Bound to the Shadow Prince that was the first. That was through Yonder, which was an experimental sort of thing that Webtoon did, where it was a serial.
Oh, right.
Bitch loves a serial. They would do like a chapter a week, but you had to pay to unlock it or whatever. And readers were like, we absolutely hate this so much. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, fast
my hands
readers
tied at this point. I don't know.
That is tough for a fast reader.
It is. And as a reader, I get it. But as the author, it's fun to make you sweat for a week, So
sure.
It feeds the evil part of me. But I think that one initially, it was on the app, and then it was audio, and then it was print, and then it was ebook. It was a very weird sort of rollout. So
is that Aspect and Anchor series, you mean?
No, that's mine self-published.
Okay, I love those. Again, I was literally like, Ruby is doing, one of the things I think readers might be curious or listeners to hear about is, you clearly have a very fertile imagination, right? I mean, so you talked a lot about where it came from, with your childhood reading, but how do you keep feeding that, right? It must, or is it just really still all up in there, right? Do you struggle ever with ideas or how to get them out into book form?
I don't know. I think a lot of my ideas, they come from me. I love reading nonfiction, nonfiction usually about tragedies, shipwrecks, or my husband jokes that I've never met a book about a cannibal I didn't like. The Donner Party, terrible situations that people have been in. And I also love archaeology books. I just read a book by Aidan Dodson about Amarna. I just read another book by Donald Ryan that was about his experiences working in the Valley of Kings. I just like a lot of history, and you pull ideas from these weird tidbits that they throw in, and it kind of forms an idea. And this idea sits in the back of your head, and I joke that it's a ball of trash. And it's a piece of trash that sticks in the back of your head. And then you get more pieces of trash. And then eventually all these pieces of trash form into a ball, and that ball becomes the story. So a story is never one idea. It's 20 ideas that ended up sticking together and forming a concept.
Yeah, interesting. You should read books about Chernobyl. Sorry, that's my personal. I mean, if you like a disaster story, it's unreal. So, okay.
Whaling ships in the 18th century. Read them all. So
amazing. So I think also people would be interested in, you're so prolific. What does it, I mean, do you write, you must write every day, all day long. How it is?
I do write every day. It's not all day long. I've been actually a lot slower in the last year or two. And I think it's just a variety of things, the general situation is hard on my anxiety.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of administration with self-publishing and traditional publishing, because every time I turn around, I've got copy edits on something, I've got galleys on something, I've got 10 emails from bookstores that want stickers or whatever. And so it ends up taking a lot more out of me than I realize. I do try to write every day because it bothers me anxiety-wise if I don't. I'm still trying to get better about you can take a day off. Can I? But I do meet with friends on Zoom every morning, and we talk a little bit. I meet with Alexa Riley, Katie Wild.
Same group.
Yes. And we chat for a bit. And we work.
So great.
Yes, and we work and we meet like in the morning and at night. And then sometimes, it just drags on. But yeah, we get together and we're like, hey, let's get some work done. So
And so are you bouncing ideas off of each other?
Sometimes it's just encouragement. Sometimes it's like, I know you have a book on sub, but you just still got to work on something else, bitch.
Oh yeah.
So,
when a book's on sub, you're like, I have nothing to do.
I can't do anything until decision. Yeah. Yes. And sometimes it's just,
and so
inspirating.
Can we talk? I really want to I want to go back to
Sure.
the kind of hallmark of a Ruby Dixon book.
Okay.
Because I think there is something, I talked about how I think like your heroes really did transform the genre in a certain way. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that piece again. And do you feel like it was in response to, you've said their politics sort of impact you. Do you feel like those heroes were birthed on the backs of politics in some way? Why are we so drawn to these soft boys?
I think because like as current day women, there are so many responsibilities and there are so many men that feel like they have to act a certain way or do a certain thing, or even like, when you get married, the expectation is that like, oh, everything's equal, but is it equal at dinner time or are you making dinner, or is it like, I don't know a good way to say it, but it still just feels unequal.
Yeah.
All the time. Or like anybody that's worked in the workplace with a bunch of men and you're like one of the 20% of the women, it ain't equal,
Well, and it's like the emotional labor that you do in those cases, right?
And I do think a lot of it is like I was tired of the women being the ones doing all the emotional labor. So I wanted the supportive guy. I wanted the guy that's like, he's just thrilled to have a wife, instead of like, oh, well, this is the best you can do sort of thing. And I say that like, I love my husband. My husband is fantastic. He's the most.
Our husbands, we all love right? Our husbands.
So but people read into that. Yeah. Like,
not all men, but always a man.
Right. I write about women having all kinds of babies. I have no children, happily. It's just like, it's the fantasy. But yeah, I wanted to write like, if I'm throwing everything in the kitchen sink into this fantasy world, why not make them just the nicest, most happy wife guys,
Yeah.
And because it's also fun to think that he's very monstrous on the outside and he's actually just like the opposite of like your chads, your incels or whatever that you're meeting in like online dating now, which is pretty much all dating now. And I don't know, I just like the juxtaposition of like, yes, you can read about these terrible billionaires or these, the dark romance and like, the hero's so aggressive and angry. And I'm like, I don't know that I want angry. I want somebody that I could see snuggling up to in the cave.
Right. We've talked about like sort of TikTok and like that like huge wave of readership, but what about like individual readers? When you meet readers like sort of one-on-one, or do you get like letters or emails? Like what do you hear from your readers?
Readers love the different types of heroines that I have. And that's not something I consciously set out to do.
But they are so different.
Yeah.
And they're so like, they're some of them are really like tough and some of them are really like
a mess,
stiff, like shy. I mean, like the whole range, right? Yeah.
And I wanted, I initially started out with like, it would be great to be able to write like 3 books in this series because I didn't have expectations for it. And then I was like, oh, it would be great to write Josie's book. And I always had planned hers to be like book 6 or whatever. And along the way, I ran into Tiffany's book, and Tiffany is a Black heroine. And I was like, I would feel really gross if I skipped it just because she's Black. And I was like, well, I'm going to write it knowing that I, a white person, do not have the right context to write this woman. But at the same time, I wanted to write it as a universal sort of story. Like, it doesn't matter what color she is, I'm going to write about a woman in space. So I was hoping that that would be the right way to go about it. Was it correct? I don't know. In hindsight, I would have had a lot of sensitivity readers. At the time, it was not a thing. And then as I kept writing, readers would write me and they're like, oh, can you put a person that is Puerto Rican in this? Can you put a woman with anxiety in this? And I had like a deaf heroine, I had a fat heroine, I had all kinds of heroines. And the only thing that I heard from readers was, this is great. Can you make one that looks like me or has this problem that I have? And I was like, people just want to be seen in a story. And I love that. And I have definitely messed things up. I use a lot more sensitivity readers now than I did when I first started, because I did have readers correct me. And they're like, hey, I'm Cuban and you got this wrong. And I was like, oh, the good thing about self-publishing is you could take it, fix it. And so now I do use sensitivity readers, and I'm like, hey, I need like 10 of you to read this and tell me what I did wrong. Tear me a new one if you need to, because I don't know what I don't know. I'm asking you for help. And so I pay sensitivity readers, and I get a variety of opinions, because you're always going to have somebody that's like, I loved it, no changes.
Right.
And
that's a bad note. That's a bad note.
And then you're going to have somebody else that's like, this is absolutely terrible. Let me tell you everything that you did wrong, which I really appreciate, because like, you see everything through your own perspective. You have blinders on. And so I want it to be, I don't want you to pick up a book and be disappointed in me. So it's a process. I'm always trying to get better. So, but I do enjoy writing a variety of heroines. I like writing people that have anxiety. I have anxiety. I don't know what it's like to not live with anxiety. I wrote a heroine that is hard of hearing, and in addition to a deaf heroine, and like she needed like hearing aids. I wear hearing aids. So I went through her experiences where, like, she tells people she pretends like she's following along with the conversation, and she's not, and all the problems that causes. I have a book coming up where the heroine has scoliosis, and it's a fantasy world, and it's not corrected. And it's her perspective on how people treat her and how it affects like her perspective in the world. She gets angry at how people treat her, and she decides she wants to do something about it. And I'm like, this is a perspective that I want to see, because a couple of months ago, I was looking for books about scoliosis. And as a scoliosis as an adult, and there's nothing. There is nothing. It doesn't go away once you hit 14. Your shoulders are still crooked. You still have back problems. Like, your clothes fit funny. Like, and I wanted somebody that had that sort of perspective where, like, yeah, if I do too much, my back's going to go out, and then I'm fucked for the next week and a half. And there was nothing there. So I was like, I'm going to have to write it. So
I love that.
yeah,
I'm just going to have to do it.
yeah.
That to me is very Georgie, right? Like, one of my favorite parts about like Georgie's book is her and Liz kind of being like, okay, who's going to go out there and do it? And they all look to her like, you.
Yes.
And I felt like that was the kind of like model of like womanhood that I really felt like was, like Earthlings kind of brought to the table, right? Of like the planet itself, right?
That was I've been in a group project before, and there's going to be like 80% discussion and 20% someone's just going to have to dig in and do it. And then I'm always the one that's like, let me just take over and do it, because I know how I want it done. So So I'm
that's
not
the
great about
benefit
asking
of
for
you
help.
having that terrible job that one time.
Yes. I still have dreams where I'm in an office,
Sure.
like, being called in to talk to my boss about what I did this last week. And it wasn't a terrible job, but there's just something about it that's like,
It wasn't
I
for
don't wanna do
you.
this.
It
I don't
wasn't
wanna
for
do
you.
this. Yeah.
You were destined for this greatness, not a different one.
There we go. There we go.
So tell us about where you think this all goes. Is there something in your head where do you have like a wish that do you have something you really want to write? Something that,
I take it, I do try to take it book by book. Like there are, I do want to write everybody's story for characters I have recently dropped on the Ice Planet, because I feel like if there's a name, readers want a book.
Oh, yeah.
And have you, now that you know like how expansive this world is, are you
Yes.
thinking of it that way? Like I'm dropping people and already know, like,
Yes.
I put
And
Sarah on the planet, she's going to be
Yes.
this.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. I have definitely done some of that. I would like to write the story of the initial crash. Like, because the whole thing is that they were a spacefaring race and they crashed there like 1,000 years ago, blah, blah, blah. I've had people asking for that, and I do want to write that. It's just that it's going to be a lot of work and fact checking myself, and
Sure.
not so good at fact checking myself.
No.
So
Where's the Ice Planet wiki? Come on.
Wait, there definitely
It
is one.
has to exist.
there's a wiki. Yeah.
I was like, yeah, no, I've consulted with the wiki.
Yes. I've had volunteers. They're like, just send me your pages, Ruby. I will fact check you. I'm like, that's
useful.
yes, it is. But at the same time, I'm like, it has to be in my brain.
Yeah,
too.
right.
So,
Yeah.
but that's a project I would definitely like to write. And so I would like to write the kids, but I don't want it to be like, oh, I just read book 4 and now
Now they're old.
book
Yeah.
4 is old and she's got like 30 kids.
Singing my song.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
We're
This is
kind
my
of
problem with kid romance.
Yeah.
the next generation.
want-
No one dies. No one should ever die.
No, I'm still horribly scarred from like Juliette Marillier. Love her writing. The one with the 7 swans and the brothers, Daughter of the Forest. The most beautiful love story in book 1, and in book 3, she's old and she dies, and her husband is
No.
there. Spoiler alert! That
Absolutely
book's like 15
not.
years old. Yeah, but I was like, that just ruined it for me. How could you? So nobody ages and dies on the Ice
And then
Planet.
what about, do you think about like new pen name and also writing something completely
Oh.
different?
No.
No,
If I wrote
this
something
is it.
completely different, it would be Ruby Dixon, because I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
right.
why-
Now this is where you're
worked
I need
so
all my
hard.
Ruby fans. Yeah. I've had people.
Yeah, this is where the reader truck is parked in the Ruby Dixon parking lot.
Yeah.
Yes, they're like, is your other name Nora Roberts? And I'm like, baby, if I was Nora Roberts, I would get that Nora Roberts money.
You would have your
whoever I'm
own
writing.
town
You would own
if
a
you were.
town.
That's Nora Roberts
Yes.
money. I own a
Yes.
town. I'm a
Yes.
company
Wait, if
town.
you
now.
ever own a town, will you name it Ice Planet?
I would name it Croatoan, because that's the village. So
Can I ask a question? Okay, sorry. This
Sure.
is now that we're talking about how to. Okay. Can you give us the final word on how to pronounce the cooey? Like the.
So there's layers to that. I always say
knew it.
cooey.
Okay.
You
I always say
cooey.
cooey
Okay.
because it sounds like cootie.
Sure.
That's what they call it.
And that's what
and
they
that's
call
what
it.
they call it. The narrators of the
Oh.
books, some
Oh.
of them ask me how to pronounce things and some do not.
Oh.
So,
No judgment, but
Right.
sort of judgment.
right. But I'm also like, it's a written medium. I
Sure.
picked that word
Sure.
because of how it looked on the page
Yeah.
versus how it sounded.
Sure.
So there's
Mhm.
no wrong answer.
Ruby.
So, yes.
Fine. Okay.
She
Listen.
says cooey.
She says
I
she
do say
says
cooey.
cooey. That's what we
I
want to
say
know.
cooey.
That's the text.
I'm like,
Yeah.
what did your mother name you? Sometimes I say that to my students. What does your mother call you? That is her
Right.
name, not what you're saying.
I say cooey.
Cooey.
You
Okay,
say
perfect.
cooey.
Okay.
All right. One of the other questions we have is like, is there a book that readers love best
And then is there a book that you love best? Or that you're like really proud
like
of?
really proud of. The one that you're like, this is Ruby Dixon.
Wow. Let me think.
Sometimes we frame that question as like, is there a book that if you could only leave one behind, what's the book you would leave behind?
And I think right now, I mean, you always love the one that you just turned in. A Villain Origin Story, which is My Heroine with Scoliosis, comes out in February of 2027. And I'm excited for that one because it's kind of a different sort of vibe for me. Because like she's like, oh no, I'm gonna ruin people's lives. I want to ruin people's lives, and I want to make people pay for how they've treated me. And she meets a hero that's like, he's like, cool, let's behead everyone, you know. And
Heads of Your Enemies as a love language is a real Cressley Cole, Sarah McLean, Jen Prokop.
Yes, we love that.
usually my people are usually like leaning towards good. So for me, it was a lot of fun to be like, well, what if we just go around murdering people?
It's a 2026 vibe, really.
Yeah. It is. The whole inspiration was because she was sick of men's shit. And so she's like,
yeah, I'm tired of this.
Sick of being overlooked.
That's great. I can't wait.
I know. Yeah. I can't either.
And then what about readers? What is their...
Readers, I get a lot of readers that love Josie's book. And I get a lot of reader mail about Barbarians' Hope, which is Asha and Himalo, which are the two aliens that when they first land, they're like a broken up couple. They resonated. They lost a child.
Oh, yeah.
And they were no longer together. And I got so many emails when that book came out because their story is them finding each other again. And she ends up like pregnant with their second baby, and like how they feel about it and process it, and how they find each other again and forgive each other. Because, you know, when you have something that monumental that happens in a relationship, somebody blames somebody acts out because of trauma. And I didn't intend to write it as like working through a trauma sort of story, but I think a lot of readers really resonate to that. I got so many emails from people that are like, you know, thank you for writing this. I have a rainbow baby. Thank you for writing this. You know, we lost our child and broke up, and like, you know, I still think about him. And just like so many people reading such a deep emotional thing in a book that I wrote about aliens, you know, and that really opened my eyes to like, you know, you can write about silly books and you can write about serious topics, but it doesn't have to be framed in a serious way. It's a lot of the time it's like, okay, this terrible thing happened. How do we move forward and still live our lives and still find happiness day to day? And I think that's what a lot of my books are. Like something terrible happened. Yeah. You know, maybe the world blew up. Maybe, you know, you were kidnapped from Earth. I don't know. You know, and it's like, okay, how do I move forward and still have an awesome life? And, you know, a lot of the stories, there's a guy in it, but he's not trying to change you. He's just trying to be awesome with you.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to a lot of people. It's a cozy sort of read.
Yes.
Romance. It's unmatched.
That's right. Because if you have to change somebody, you shouldn't be getting with them anyhow. You have to love them with all their flaws. So,
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Ruby Dixon, you're amazing.
That was amazing.
I knew this conversation would be amazing, but now I'm very happy to know that I was right. This was really incredible. I'm so grateful to you. I'm so grateful to you for your books and for your time, but also because I feel like, you know, we spend so much time on Fatemates, like thinking about the movements of romance and the touchstones of romance. And we spend and it's so difficult to see them when you're living right up against them.
Absolutely.
And, but I just feel like from the moment I read Ice Planet Barbarians, I was like, this is something totally fresh and important. So your silly books about aliens were never silly to me.
No, it's like, I've always joked that like I'm the Taco Bell of literature, because like who doesn't love Taco Bell?
Who doesn't love Taco Bell though?
But also like you get so many books thrown at you as a young adult or as somebody in college of like, here, you have to read this because it's a literary, icon. It's something formative. It's going to change your life. Well, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's just really dry and boring. And I just want you to love reading.
Yeah.
I want you to have the same love of reading and fun when you open a book as I did when I was little.
As when we were little, exactly. Like there's a joyfulness to the way children read that a lot of adults never find. And that's okay. Like reading can be a lot of things, right? But I'm sure I'm gonna like tell you this really funny story. Maybe this is like an inappropriate way to wrap up, but I was at a teaching conference once, and someone's like, I kind of mentioned like reading, being a romance reader, and then sometimes they'll say, "Oh, me too," and I think they're now going to say, "I love Nicholas Sparks or whatever," and I was like, "Oh, what?" So then I'm kind of always like, "Okay, well, what do you like? Let me like test out this assertion." And this woman was like, "Ruby Dixon," and I was like, "Oh, one of us, you're for real," and we had a great time. So.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it should be a good time. And that's one thing why I'm really excited for Complete Tangent, for the Dungeon Crawler Carl books to really be taking off, because I feel like that's the Twilight for dudes. Bring back into and being like, reading doesn't have to be like, military fiction or spies or whatever. It can be silliness, show them the silly side. And I think if everybody reads more, it wins.
Yes, agree. Well, thank you so much for being with us. This was amazing.
Thank you. Thank you for being such big supporters of the books for so many years.
That is honestly not at all a trial. Ruby, everybody knows who you are, but would you just tell us a little bit about where we can find you and the next book? The next books, sure. I'm sure there are several. Sure. So
there's I am chronically online. I do have a website, rubydixon.com. I have a Facebook. I have an Instagram. I'm really bad at answering DMs. Don't DM me. It will just disappear into the void. But I do post a serial on a daily basis right now, just to throw a little something positive out into the universe in this hellish black pit that we are in. And I have a newsletter. It will not spam you. It'll just be like twice a month. Here's what's going on with Ruby. I do have a book coming out in December. It is Farley's book, which is book 11, Barbarian's Choice. And then in February 2027, I will have a hardcover called Villain Origin Story with Penguin Random House. And it's about a woman who gets tired of the patriarchy and goes to the evil emperor to teach her how to be evil too. So
I want to read that right now.
Evil lessons. It's like sex lessons, but for now.
Yes. And it turns out to be very different than what she expects.
Oh, great. I can't wait. I'm so excited. If you're listening, Berkeley, you know my address.
Same.
I'll get Holly to send you something.
Yeah. There you go. You all, you know people.
Yes.
You know people.
Yes.
You know what it was funny though? So we are recording this only about 12 hours after Artemis 2 splashed down into the ocean. And just like everyone, everything I ever think about is really filtered through the romance brain. And I found myself feeling really hopeful about space, really. And I thought this and the Ice Planet Barbarians make me feel hopeful about space.
Yes. You know what? I couldn't watch it because
Challenger.
The Challenger. Watched it in geography class when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Teacher turned it on.
Yep.
Turned it right back off.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Yeah. So an entire generation.
But they're back and everything is great. And the moon is perfect from the backside. And I couldn't be happier for everyone involved. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Ruby. We hope it's not the last time. Come back anytime. All right. Sounds good. The best ones are the ones where you just wind them up and they just tell you their whole story in a perfect through line, which frankly, no fucking surprise. This lady's written 400 books and is great at it.
At the beginning, we talked a little bit about like the first wave of trailblazers. Now we're in like our second era. In the first round, we are talking to women who are older than us in a lot of cases. And their sort of like entrance into the romance space, like over and over again, you're hearing things like The Flame and the Flower and Kathleen E. Woody Wilson, right? Like sort of those early books. And for all the authors we've ever talked to, a big through line was like, what was I reading as a child?
Yep.
What was on the shelves of my home as a child or in the places I can access books? And so, of course, it was fascinating to hear her say her mom loved old sci-fi, right? Like old Westerns.
That was the first time we've heard Clan of the Cave Bear.
Yes.
I mean, which of course, like,
course.
I can't believe I've never said Clan of the Cave Bear in an interview. Like, I remember picking that. I mean, my mom, everybody's mom had that.
Everybody's mom had that book, and everybody was like, I'm going to read this, right? It was and I was just like, of course, right? Like, what went into the primordial soup that is
but
like Ruby Dixon
being like birthed by Clan of the Cave Bear makes such perfect sense.
Yes. As soon as she said it, I was like, of course.
Listen, there is a lot about this world that we live in that I am just flummoxed by today. But that moment of just utter clarity, just the universe is writing itself, everyone.
Right. Often you hear people putting it together for themselves too. And I don't know, maybe, I can't read Ruby's mind, but when she was talking, I felt like there was a way that even she was like, it is making sense to me, right?
I mean, the first name she said was Anne McCaffrey. And I was like, oh, wait, say less, as the children say. Like, that is 1000% correct. That these are the people who stitched your DNA. And then
the zebra.
Last of the Mohicans. Again, lost on a kind of unhospitable planet.
I didn't bring it up, but I found myself thinking it's also a really different time in terms of like how adults like really thought of like their children as readers. And there was just a point where kids like ran out of books to read. And then it was totally cool to just give your kids like adult books. You know what I mean? Like,
what else were you gonna do?
What else was there? I mean, I remember like reading like James Michener and like this Travis McGee series of mysteries. And, you were just really hungry for any adult to like sort of steer you to a book and be like, okay, I'll try this. And so, I think the other thing too is I really want to say if you are a person who is potentially over involved in your child's reading life, like, just let them read, let them read. And I think
whatever
it is that's interesting to them, I think that is like they will put down the things they don't want to read and read the things they do. And it's fine.
Yeah. And don't be so scared about them reading sex, everyone. You'd rather have them reading consensual, like wife guys from Ruby Dixon than whatever they're discovering on the rabbit hole of Reddit.
Right.
So there was that. I'm sure you saw it and heard it when she was like, I don't need New York.
Yes.
Like the words, she said the words and I thought, that's it. That's the
modern trailblazer, right?
Like every other trailblazer we've ever had, right? The dream, even E.E. Ottoman, who is our youngest trailblazer, right?
Probably, yeah, that's probably true. Yeah.
And E.E. started really desperately, when he talks about his story, he talks about, desperately trying to like get published by small presses. Radcliffe talks about
the creating small presses, right?
Yeah, and the pure desire to like be published like in print for bookstores. But the moment that Ruby said that, like, that's really the shift. And there are other people who, I reference Bella Andre and Barbara Freethy, like who both of whom I think are also people who like are people who would be interesting in this context. But that's it. And
yeah, and I would say like the big shift. So if that's like 2020, I don't need New York. I feel like in 2026, it's like, and New York needs us.
well, the fact that she was being published traditionally during all of this by Berkeley, and they knew about Ice Planet Barbarians, but just didn't think that won't sell traditionally. And now look at the way these books are selling, like a constant stream.
I had just sort of assumed that like Berkeley came calling, right? Like let us put these books in print. And so it was really fascinating to hear instead that like that, and it does make sense, right? Like who is getting the emails and the DMs saying, I can't get this in my bookstore? Who is being tagged in those social media posts saying people come in and want to buy these books, right? And I think like that's like an echo of all the things we heard all throughout the heated rivalry, like big push, like, right? Like, people, bookstore after bookstore saying people are coming in looking for this book and I don't have it. Mm-hmm. And I do think that is like a really how fast a book goes from being like, well, it doesn't matter because you can read it online. These are ebook first. And to know, like at some point, reader, like, right, like capturing the reader who only reads in print.
Yeah, the Venn diagram of readership. I mean, that story that she told where it was like, the lady was looking for book 11 and just hit download it onto your phone, my friend. Like, but no, that's not how she wants it. And I think it's just this conversation felt really transformational for us too, like in the series, because it was like, oh, this is how we talk about the shift. I love that she talked about her work around trying to write to readers. Like,
yes.
She hears from readers who want, a character who looks like them, acts like them, is from their same culture, and how she sort of has evolved as a writer to think about that. I talk a lot whenever like people ask us about the podcast in the world, like, and what we've learned from writers. One of the things I think the most about is that we sort of fall into two camps, and the camps are writers who write for themselves and writers who write for readers. And I say that, everybody, and I always feel like I have to qualify. I am not placing judgment on either of these things. Like, I think great books come from both of these camps.
Yes.
But it's very clear to me that like Ruby is really thinking about readers.
Yeah. But also like only to a certain extent, right? Yeah. Like, and I think that like, right, that there's like and I think this is true in genre fiction. I think you probably have to keep your eye on both at like different times. You can sort of be situated in one of those, but if you're only writing for yourself in genre, of course, at some point, they're going to be like, what about the readers? But if you're only trying to like write to the reader and your readers are just too different, right? And so I was really fascinated by the whole part about like, I still like to, kind of like release things as a serial every once in a while. Like that is really fulfilling for Ruby to like think about it that way and to like, sort of have her, what you call it, her villain moment or whatever. And I think that was, so that I was really fascinated in the idea that like, there are times and like limits on that, like, right? Like she cares about the reader, but also she is really writing to, I've like The Club was also really interesting, right?
Yeah, that was the next thing I was going to bring.
Here's then like four of us who like kind of sat down and said, we think that we can produce, well, I guess 5, Alexa Riley's 2 people, right? We think we can produce in a certain way and at a certain time, at a certain pace. And that will be really like well regarded by readers who have a Kindle, who read like we do, right? And so I thought that was also just really fascinating.
I love that. I also love the longevity of that group. Like, I love
right.
Same group that started together in 2015 is now still meeting daily. Like, It speaks to the need for community, even in the work that we are doing.
Yes.
It speaks to, and like, obviously we recognize the names that she spoke. They're all like successful writers in their own worlds. But I think often, and I worry about this as somebody who's like been coming through romance for so long, right? Like my career in romance feels ancient in a lot of ways. And the community piece was built in many ways by places like RWA, places like RT, where you would go and you would meet each other. And I know that it does feel a little lonelier now.
I think people always find new outlets if you're looking for that, right? Like I have heard about so many like writer discords, for example, or right, things like that where people are sort of, gathering together to write. But I do think that there is like a small group of your club, right? Your writers club, the people that you can get on a Zoom with, that you can ask questions to, that you can sort of like feel like you're in the room with people. That's going to make the books better. It is. It's going to make your book better. It's going to make their books better because, writing, I think it has such a funny, especially now that I'm editing, like such a funny, like, oh, you just sit in alone in your house and do it. And then when you talk to writers, it's like, no, I have my people. I have the people I write with. I have the people who I bounce ideas off of.
100%.
Yeah. So I was really interested in hearing about that too.
Well, I thought this was so fun.
Yeah, I loved it.
Great about this.
I just feel so warmly towards people who really like love romance and realize and recognize like just how much opportunity there is in the romance space, right? That if you're burned out, I mean, I think that was like to me too, if you are an author, it has to feel so compelling to essentially have someone say, like, just write what you want. Write your weird little books, write the thing that is like in your brain and like go ahead and do it. And I think that is another really big part of what I found really inspiring is just like the idea that like the reinventing yourself isn't just for the market. It's reinventing yourself for what you love, what you're interested in, the stories that you want to tell.
Absolutely. I mean, especially because if you listen to the story that she told, she was like, well, first I wrote motorcycle because motorcycle was the market.
Yes.
And it's like Katie Wilde did too. And she could write a banger in motorcycles, right? But like it takes chasing the market works for some people because they have the instinct for whatever the market is doing. But man, if you had told me in 2013, if you'd said to me, the biggest fucking series coming down the pike is Blue Aliens, I would have been like, that's crazy talk. But here we were. And it was because she clearly, I mean, like, there is no question that this woman's DNA was coded with Blue Aliens.
Yes, right.
This was her destiny.
Yeah, of course. And ours.
I love it.
Yeah, it was great. It was really fun.
I've not had a chance to read Ice Planet Barbarians, and you do decide to read the first book, which is a banger. We earlier this year did a deep dive of it. And then if you have read Ice Planet Barbarians, don't forget to go over and listen to Ice Planet Pod, which was a podcast from Danny Lacey.
Right, which is still available. It's like you have to dig for it. We'll put it in show notes so that you can check it out. And it's really fun. And you and I were both on that one. But it also, like, there's just like a lot of, I think like I said, you as an author, like no one's going to want to read my weird book about blue aliens. And then it's like, no, everyone is, right? And I can't always promise that's going to happen. But if I do think that there are ways in which, like, if you come to a topic with like, I just love this and think it's the best thing ever, there is a sort of authenticity to it that I think romance readers really flock to.
It's contagious. One of the biggest problems I think with romance right now is that writers are flattening their texts, right? They're saying like, oh, well, I have to write a book that feels exactly like,
Yeah.
you know, these other people like Emily Henry, Ellie Orselwood,
Right.
Abby Jimenez, Carly Fortune, whatever, like make your list. And you lose yourself in that. Unless, of course, like some people are very good at that kind of book, but don't lose yourselves. I mean, you don't need New York. I'm Sarah McLean, and here with my friend Jen Prokop. We are Fated Mates. You can listen to us every Wednesday wherever you get your podcasts. Or you can find us online at Threads or Instagram at Fated Mates Pod, on Blue Sky at Fated Mates. If you go to fatedmates.net, you can click on episodes and see show notes for where we'll list all the authors that Ruby talks about in this episode and some other things, anything else that we sort of talk about. Also a list of the books she references that are hers. Her most recent book, or the book that she felt most proud of, which is Villain Origin Story, is not out until next spring. There is no cover yet, but we'll come back and have the cover, you know, in the future. And what else? If you want to talk more about Ruby, about Trailblazers, if you want to suggest people for this idea of modern Trailblazers, we want to hear all about it. You can obviously mention, you can tell us in on all the social media outlets that I talked about, or if you'd like to come over and hang out with a bunch of other Fated Mates listeners who talk about romance all the time, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/fatedmates, which will get you access to our Discord where romance readers are talking about romance constantly. Also, you get an extra episode every month from the Discord or from the Patreon, and we'd love to have you over there. Thanks so much to Ruby Dixon for spending time with us and sharing her story. And we will see you all next week.